Oh, Daniel, can you hear me, Danny? Hmm. Danny, can you hear me or no? Hi, Kirsten.
Hello.
I'm just
How are
making
you?
good. I'm just making sure that people can talk.
Okay.
Are you on twice, Kirsten?
I'm on twice.
That's what it says.
I don't, my Zoom does that for some reason because I think it opens like the Zoom app and then opens it on the website.
Got it.
Or maybe I have like a note taker following me.
Sure. Ah, now I see what it is. It's sneaky. It's
What is
it's
it?
uh it's old Carrie. She's sneaking in under somebody else's name so she can talk craziness. I love it.
Oh, because I think she copied my link or something
It's all
to,
good.
yeah.
It's mighty undercover of you, Carrie. I love it.
We're not as tech savvy as you, Quentin.
Oh, whatever. You should see what this disaster that I do with this thing. All right. We'll give it a couple more minutes and hopefully it's not just you guys.
Hey, I just finished with a deal. I was had to be off mute.
Worries. We'll give it a couple more minutes and then hopefully we'll just jump in. If it's not, it's going to be an internal training session, which is fine because these are being recorded anyway. And
How many people were on this session last week?
of all,
Three?
I think of all the sessions, this was the lightest.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
How about this morning queue?
We had a handful. Hey, Christian, how are you?
Oh, doing great. Thanks for asking. How about yourself?
Doing well. I'm just confirming that you got a follow up email from me this morning.
I did. I received a Word document from you. Yes.
Fantastic.
Thank
Okay,
you.
doke. That'll just be the basis of it. Like I said last time, we will edit and make that prettier from when our marketing team puts some eyes on it. Five people total on the morning session, Danny.
Great.
Christian, we're going to wait a couple minutes and then we'll just jump right in.
Sounds good.
Kirsten, thanks for letting me steal your link again.
See,
It
now
was
you,
cracking me up when Quentin said, "You're on here twice." And it suddenly occurred to me, oh, yeah, because I used her link.
you're good. You're good. Got a lot of really good feedback and questions coming out of the first session, and I'll just double check when we follow up afterwards, Danny. Let's see. I'm going to wait like one more minute and then we'll just jump in. And whenever anybody comes, they come. Christian, it's going to be super interactive for everybody that's on the call. If you don't have a ton of background noise, if you just want to go ahead and leave it unmuted, we'll dive in and leverage it as we can. It is 3:07 and it doesn't look like we have any new people coming in. If they do, we'll add them into the flow. We have 90 more minutes, or actually at this point, we have 83 more minutes. And we tend to use all of it because it's good conversation. But welcome to PadSplit Host Academy. This is PS202. This is all focused on daily operations and focusing on what happens post-activation, and then how do we optimize your business moving forward. Simply, we've just labeled it revenue operations, and the SOP is standard operating procedures. The end goal and hope for all hosts coming onto this and going through the training is that you feel more empowered because you have some more standardized practices that you've implemented into your business. The more, and then essentially the first go around, you're going to tweak these as you go. But the fact that people have more tools to put into place, I think that's our end goal. Focus of this is moving from post-activation, post-listings, what happens through the booking process, and then how do we manage our regular ongoing business from bookings, move in, tenure, move out, through occupancy, and then the room turn. And the focus is going to be around the revenue side of the business. And then how are we managing the member management? What standard procedures do we have in place? And then we're going to lift up from the operational side, and then we're going to actually have the conversation around from the business owner, what's your reporting look like? How do you manage and look at financials and go through from an operating business, how does that work? So these are the things that I want you to keep in mind. Any questions and concerns and anything that you have in mind, throw them in the Q&A if I'm in the middle of yapping, or just unmute yourself and we'll get to you. Small groups allow us to be a lot more interactive. So the more interactive it is, view it as being helping everybody, because the other people that are on the call probably have the same question at some point, or they have some anxiety about having to cross that bridge when they get to it as well. So let's start jumping in. Before I get started, Christian, you have anything that jumps out at you as anything that you wanted to follow up from the last call? Nope, maybe nothing. Danny, Kirsten, anybody else? Is there anything that jumped out from the last call that you had follow-up questions about?
Well, I
No
don't
follow.
think so.
Okay. So just keep that in mind. If you have anything, just jump in. There was some homework coming out of last week, was that we were going to look at our listings and review those. If you had any questions around that, feel free to post it. We can always circle back on it. Small groups allow us to kind of manage that. There are some announcements that I just want to go ahead and touch base on. Everybody should have received the host support doc. It was sent via email. It'll come directly from my email address. So if you don't have it, let me know. I want to make sure that you have the same docs and the links that you need. We have made all the recordings available. It's available through that same link that's provided on that support doc. If you can't have access to it or can't find access to it, again, email me and I will make sure that you have those. Some homework for 202. I want you to keep this in mind as a write down for takeaways. We're going to take a look at your systems around the bookings approval process. What happens? How is it consistent? Do you have concerns around HUD? Do you have concerns around how you're approving things? I want to take the ambiguity out of how and when you say yes to a member. What data or lack of data is causing you anxiety, and how do we address that? So anything around the booking engine, if we can get and compress the time from when a member puts a booking request into your house, if we can compress that time to approving that member because you have more standard operating procedures in place where you feel comfortable saying yes or no based on non-subjective things and more objective things, then we can improve the member experience because they're not sitting on the edge of their seat waiting for 24 hours to go around for somebody to say yes or no to that booking. What management tools and how familiar are you with the dashboard that we have in place? We're going to talk a lot around the metrics tab, around how do you manage your business that you're currently working on. Some of the other best practices, we're going to talk about the magic power of the House Messenger. That is a massive tool that is underutilized by hosts. It is an asynchronous way to talk to members about things that are happening. And I'll kind of dive into the pros and cons and some of the best practices that other hosts utilize that for. One of the biggest things that is not currently on a slide, but I do want to go through, is just an education from the members for the host side around member collections. When did the bills go out? When are they due? How many days in between? What does that process actually look like? Very few hosts have actually gone through an understanding of actually how our billing cycle works. So when you see reporting on the numbers around if a member is behind on payments or if a member has a positive balance, I want you to be very comfortable around using the data on our desktop app so that you understand what the data means. So without any questions, or are there any questions? Let me kind of pause and ask the questions about that. Okay, we've got a talkative group. That's okay. We'll make it work. You guys are going to get warmed up. So let's jump into it. A booking request. You should have, God willing, knock on wood, seen several of these go through. Instead of just going through the function of saying, hey, I've got this, let's get deeper into understanding what it is that you're actually seeing. What do you have the ability to control? What do you not have the ability to control? What data is being sent over from PadSplit in our product? So this would be a message that pops up onto your email and on your dashboard. What does this mean? So for the protection of people's identities, I just wanted to cover some stuff. So member A is moving into your house, and this is the address. Their move-in date is on this day. What is functionally changeable, editable about this? Your move-in date. So this allows there's actually a function in your listing where you can have a range of dates in which a member can book forward looking into your house. I think the default setting is up to 2 weeks. So if you have a listing that is coming on board, or if you have rooms that are coming on board, or whatever the individual dynamic scenario per each room is, if you want to go ahead and have the ability for, hey, Al, if you have the ability for changing what dates people can move in advance, that's what will change in terms of what the members can book for. In this specific scenario, this move-in date is scheduled for the 26th. Today is the 19th. So just understanding what that means to you as a host. So this is what the member booking request will look like. You can click into the actual booking request, or you can dismiss it. You can reject only 24 hours since the booking. Afterwards, it will be automatically approved. Any questions around those two statements? Because that's a function of how our product is set up. Nothing? Okay. So this is what the actual booking request looks like. The booking request comes through to you on your host's side. You'll see the property address that's listed. This is the actual room. You're the host owner. This is the number that the room price is per week that's listed. This is the approved amount that the member is approved for in our system. I want to pause here and just ask the question. Does anybody understand or have an understanding of what the approval amount default settings are? Christian L, have you seen this before?
Yeah, I think I have seen this before. Yes.
Okay. Do you have an understanding of what the 481 per week actually implies?
What's it referred to as?
So the approval amount for this member is approved to book a room at 481 per week.
Is that based on their earnings?
It is. Wonderful. So I just want to make sure that we have context around what the data is on this approval sheet. So essentially, what our system is spitting out is that this person makes roughly $960. So it's a 2-to-1 ratio as the default setting. So this person will earn roughly $960 per week. And that is captured one of two ways. And I just want to make sure that we have an understanding of that. The first is it's a bank statement approval, which means it goes through our software that we utilize, third party, that goes through the member would actually have to put in login information where this software has access to their banking. And then it does an algorithmic study about inbound deposits and then outbound withdrawals or debits. And then from that, it literally drives out a number that says this is the approved amount. And then our default setting is typically 2-to-1. So in this world, right, if it's bank statement related, it'll say roughly $960. In this case, if you go a little bit further down, you'll see about this member and it'll list where they actually work. The other way that we do bank approvals is they actually submit a W-2 or a pay stub, and it'll list out what the actual income is that way. So I just want to say the numbers that are posted here, if you have any questions, I just want you to be comfortable in what it is that you're reading. The payment period. So this member chose, I'm going to pay every 2 weeks on a Tuesday. The move-in date is going to be on the 26th. So from a mechanical standpoint as a host, when it says every 2 weeks on a Tuesday, so the billing cycle, this is really interesting because you need to understand it, because things subsequently will show up like late payments or they missed a payment and late fees. What ends up happening is the bill is posted to this member's account. We'll call it day one. Okay. So when they move in, it'll say the bill is posted on day one. The due date is typically 2 days of following the bill date. If they do not pay 2 days following the bill date, on day 3, if a balance shows, they will get they'll be assessed a $25 late fee. There's some mechanics in terms of how a host or a member, if they wanted to change from a 2 weeks bill period to a 1 week bill period. The reason I bring this up to hosts is that most members will communicate with our customer service line and our finance team, and they'll go through that conversation. But ultimately, this will come back to members and hosts having conversations if it comes to that. And I just want you to have an understanding. The reason I bring this forward is this is what happened in my house. This was an experience that we had when members who were paying on a weekly basis, they made the incorrect assumption that if they switch from a weekly bill cycle to a 2-week bill cycle, that they thought they were gaming the system a touch, where they thought they would get one more week in the hole per se and not have to pay for additional week. The unfortunate thing that they did not understand about how our system works is that members prepay for their chosen bill period. So in the case of my member, when she went from 1 week pay, in which she was routinely scheduled on the day that she gets paid and she didn't have any issues, she thought she was going to buy an extra week of not having to pay rent. And ultimately, she actually got a bill for 2 more weeks. And then it threw her off so that she kept getting $25 late fees because she was paying her rent when she was getting her paycheck on a weekly basis. And she didn't have an extra week of spare dollars to pay the full 2 weeks out to keep a zero balance. So she was incurring $25 charges. When the member raised that to me as the host, we actually had a conversation about, how to help in that way. For her to keep incurring $25 costs was kind of, it just didn't make sense to me. So I worked with her and I worked with our customer service to actually figure out a way to get her back onto a weekly cycle so that she wasn't being penalized for staying at the house. And she was doing it the right way, which was actually paying for 1 week at a time. The lesson learned was that now she understood how our bill period worked. So it was an out of the box solution, which meant that because the member had a balance on her account, she could not change back to a 1 week pay cycle, because if you have a balance on your account, you're not allowed to change your bill cycle. So we had to work directly with customer service. Customer service actually credited the account, got her back to zero, allowed her to change to a weekly bill cycle that aligned back with her pay date. And then they reapplied the negative balance that was shown for the week that she was behind. It sounds a little arduous, but the value to the member is, that we were willing to work with them as the host. The platform did what it needed to do to facilitate that. And then she continued to just be sticky and felt value in staying at the house. I just wanted to share that story because it kind of highlights a lack of education on the member side and a lack of education on the host side about how our true bill cycle works. And I bring it up here because until you start getting bookings and until you start seeing situations, you don't actually cross that bridge until you have to deal with it. But in this scenario, I just want you to be better educated around how our members are billed and the collections at work. Are there any questions around that? Oh, this jury is really quiet. Okie dokie. Moving forward. This information is what you're going to get on the booking request. Is there anything about the information on here? Any suggestions? I'll leave it up as a working session for us. Is there any suggestions or questions around the information that's provided to you? We talk about transparency a lot. So from a host side, is there anything else that you would really like for us to push on our product side to see additional information here?
Good evening. I'm a little late in joining.
No worries.
Yeah, how you doing? Elizabeth
Good.
Jackson. Um, did you mention for background screening? I did hear about the income verification
Mhm.
as I was logging on.
Yep.
Did you mention anything about the background checks so far as any evictions,
Yep.
any
So
type?
if you scroll to the bottom of this little page, I know it's really tiny, but the big yellow arrow at the bottom, it talks about mental history and background check. The background screening against available resources. And again, we talked about this last time as well, is that our background screening only has the ability to pull data off of the databases in which that background provider pulls data from. So we use a couple different screening tools. One is a product called Verif. That is essentially, are you who you say you are? And then we use LexisNexis as the actual database pull. And we're screening for 7-year convictions, that's a federally mandated thing because the Federal Credit Reporting Act only allows for 7 years of history. Wonderful. So that's the time span. But the data that's actually in that database, whatever's available there, we're limited to what the data that we can pull from. So again, I used the example, if you're in a rural county in Georgia that only reports every 6 months, we may not see that data. For all the background screening that we go through, every member, you'll see a green passed. From what my understanding is, the best I understand, no member will be approved if anything in that background screening doesn't show up as a pass. Do keep in mind, from an income verification standpoint, we either use one of two forms of verification. One is the bank statement verification, and the other is the pay stub verification. The other portion that I want to point out to you is the information that's available in the booking request. If you go up here about this member, it'll tell you where they work. If not, it'll have a blank here and it says, no reported employment or something like that. This is up to you to have the conversation with the member to seek that information out if it's not clearly listed here. Some of the best practices. It does not tell you how long this member has worked at this job. So from your standpoint, some of the best practices that other hosts utilizes is during their screening call, they'll ask the question, where do you work? How long have you currently worked there? In an effort to de-risk that question around the employment, and do you have income? So to answer your question, Elizabeth, on the background screening, we have limitations on what information we can provide to you. I can't remember the exact phrasing. Kirsten, do you remember what the limitations were around? There was actually a specific statement around it. I couldn't remember, but we cannot share like Social Security information. We do not share, other individual identification pieces that are part of our background screening because I think I'm going to say this gently. PadSplit is the one that actually pulled the background screening. So we do not have the ability to share the specific information to the actual host. But you will see that this is the evictions over the last 7 years. We do not allow for members to be approved if they've had more than 2 evictions over the past 7 years. And then it will list the last eviction date that was posted. In this case, it was August 2021. Did that answer your question, Elizabeth?
Yes, it does about the evictions and all. Yes.
Okay.
But I still have a piggyback question.
Mhm.
If that employment, well, let me go back to the verifications that you all actually received,
Mhm.
that you actually receive. And that is, you indicated that it's either bank statement or it's a current pay stub.
Yes.
All right. Do you validate whether or not that information is accurate? And if those documents are valid?
Do we validate if the documents they submitted to us are valid?
Yes. And if they are, if the information is accurate and if it's valid, meaning that they are not manufactured documents, they're the actual documents from the said company or organization, from said bank, financial institution.
Okay.
Is that valid? Because there that does
You're talking
exist.
fraudulent documents that are
Yes.
uploaded.
Yes.
Um, I don't actually want to venture a guess and to guess an answer for that, Elizabeth, but I will find out the information and get you a response to that one. Golly, that's an unfortunate situation that we have
Yes,
to
it
answer
does
that question.
definitely. Yes, and
Mhm.
it does occur. Believe
I'm
me.
sure,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yes, it does.
So I will get you a confirmed answer from our team around if we do validation on any fraudulent documents submitted.
Yeah, thank you. And
You,
that was my part one. My
Mhm.
part two, if that employment line, as you indicated, is vacant, it seems as if that's not something that you all um do a circle back with that information. I do understand that, yeah, it is definitely our responsibility, I think, to validate everything, not only
Mhm.
the employment, but also the income to validate that as well. Um, but my part of that question I'm asking is if that blank is employment blank is there, do you not circle back to inquire about employment and to validate that employment?
I'm not sure what that time period is to actually go back and ask the question. The reason I would say that it would ever be blank would be if somebody is on SSDI or SSI, they would possibly leave because it's self-reported. They would possibly leave that employment field blank.
Okay.
And I don't know if there's a cadence where we go back in 2 days or 3 days or 7 days or 15 days to say, are you employed? Fill out that document.
Okay. All right. In reference still with this employment,
Mm-hmm.
for best practices, what have some of the hosts um, done to actually validate employment?
There are several hosts that send out a questionnaire or a list of questions that say take a picture with and or submit the following. So that, as a secondary piece of it, there are some hosts that say, and these are the most active hosts, I would say, take a picture of yourself and your ID, post it back here. Take a picture of your most recent pay stub, post it here. Um, you can collect any form of data during that 24-hour period as you see fit. The fastest, easy ways to do it that I've seen is people send an email out directly to the person with the questions that they have listed. If they don't respond with the questions, then they move on and just go ahead and reject that member.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. I think in most situations when we talk to hosts, the scenarios that are brought up tend to be on the 90-10 or 80-20 rule. We focus so much on the 10% and the 20% exceptions. And I know that from a landlord perspective, these are the things that we're trying to de-risk. So I get that. But I think for the most part, the scenarios you'll see are most of the data fields are accepted. Now, the question is, what processes do you have in place that allow for you to expedite the approval process? What would make you comfortable? Employment, how old, how long you are or how long you've been a member. Did you pass the background screening? Yes. If it has an eviction or zero evictions. And then what are you looking for from a room price and approval? If you can get more comfortable in understanding the data that's behind and the insights around the data that are behind here, you can move faster toward approving and being more comfortable around it's a systematic approval process and it's not subjective and it's not how are you feeling today and please send me a picture and all this other stuff. I just want you to see the tools that are and the data that's available. How can we implement systems that are much more standardized so that we can put a business and a standard behind it so we can move forward towards speed? So is there any question else or anything else on here? Okay, let's move forward. If there are questions, I just want to go ahead and have you kind of add them to the list or add them to the chat. I'll make sure we circle back. I added some additional slides recently out of our follow-up for our first call that we had. And this was interesting. Have you, as hosts, gone on to your host dashboard and taken a look at the metrics tab? Elizabeth, are you comfortable, or Christian, are you comfortable with the information that's available on your dashboard?
Yes, personally,
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Okay, doke. So I just want to make sure that we kind of dive into it so that you understand from a dashboard perspective what's available, what information is being given to you, and then how we can leverage that information from a business side so we can action off of that. I took some screenshots today of my metrics tab. These are the member ratings. Question, open-ended. After a member moves into your home, do you send a follow-up email or a text or a call to that member post move-in?
We send them a chat through the portal.
Okay. In that chat, do you ask them to please make sure you fill out your member move-in survey?
No.
Okay. There's a couple reasons why I bring this up. On your listing side, if you have available rooms, we have a cool AI function where it's gone in and started collecting positive feedback about why members like this house. And one of the sources of data that they utilize is member move-ins. So if your members give a positive move-in because you're providing a wonderful experience, more of that user-generated content and user-generated, like think Yelp ratings, they'll get posted to your listings, which makes your listing more attractive because other hosts and other members are actually giving real-time feedback on why they like your house. So just that's a tool that you didn't even know you weren't utilizing. So one of the best practices we have is that we ask members after like 2 or 3 days after your move-in. It's a follow-up call. How was your move-in experience? Is there anything that we'd like to improve or change, or is there anything that happened that we can improve upon? And then please ask them to fill out a member survey. It's provided in an email to them, to the email that they have addressed. 2 things that I utilize here as an operator. If they did not get the email survey, I confirmed the fact that maybe they have changed their email address. If they don't have an email address, they will never get any of the communications that is sent to them. We do send some an SMS, but most of the things get sent to their email. So it's a simple follow-up because it's usually a text at that point. Did you get your member survey? No, I did not get it in an email. Is your email update corrected? Oh, no, that's an old email. Please update your member profile for your correct email, and then we'll send you a host response. So just kind of understand the mechanics of how our product works a little bit. And I use that follow-up for a couple things. And those are the things that I use it for. One is to reaffirm the fact that they had a good move-in experience. And I'll go back and explain to you why. I'll just tell you, because our member historical data says the member move-in experience is the most pivotal input to how long members will stay at your house. From a simple explanation and an example, if I move into your house, Christian, and it's a rainy, cold day on a Saturday at 9:00 and the door code doesn't work, and I'm stuck in there punching in the door code that's not working, I'm going to give you a terrible move-in experience. I'm going to think that this is how I'm going to get treated as a member. And the first thing that I'm really looking for is everything I can complain about the house to either drive a transfer to another location, or I'm going to go ahead and blast you on the move-in survey. So those type of things, like the door locks and cleanliness are the 2 biggest problems that we run into. And if those are such controllable things from the host side, that if we can address it and we get more dynamic feedback from members that are moving into the houses, then we have the ability to address that move-in situation. And you as an operator can improve that experience. And therefore, the downhill impact is that tenure extends and more consistent revenue is received. So just keep that in mind about how to use the survey as an operating tool. If you hit metrics, these are the headings that you're going to see. Member ratings, and it'll be everything from, this member here submitted a 216 member survey. She used this survey to make me aware that somebody was smoking in the house, and whoever was assigned to follow the garbage or take the garbage to the curb wasn't really doing their job. So she happened to use this as a way to communicate that. Other members, on the most part, I ask for a monthly feedback. I just want to use this as the happiness quotient. If members are giving feedback saying that they're happy and they're getting 4s and 5s, it just reinforces the stickiness of why they're not going to transfer and leave. If you keep telling me you're happy, it reinforces the fact that you're happy. So I use it for that way. Occupancy, it'll give you data around what occupancy looks like at your house, tenure of time to flip. If you are using a third-party property manager, these are 2 key metrics to keep an eye on, especially as you go to expand your portfolio over time. If your time to flip, like I took a look at mine and it actually pissed me off because I had a member transfer from one bedroom to the other bedroom and it was a manual transfer and it didn't kick out necessarily a task for me and I didn't understand what it was. So I went back to our customer service. They had to use a member move out and a member move in function to get her out of room 3 into room 1. I did not know to go back in and close out the move out function and turn room. So it left me with 10 days on my time to flip a room, which is kind of, it aggravated me because that's not really what happened, but that was the metric that's posted. In your scenario as an operator, one of the best ways to look at this is time to flip a room is equivalent to how many days do I put my revenue generating asset back on the market so I can go ahead and collect revenue. In my scenario, it didn't really impact it at all because that room was already filled with somebody else. And I just mechanically didn't update the room flip. In a real life scenario, as you have a portfolio and you're trying to hold your third-party property manager accountable, if they tell you my standard operating procedure and expectation is that I'm going to flip a room in 48 hours, and all of a sudden you look at the time to flip, and some of your rooms are taking 7, 11, 12 days to flip, that's a conversation we need to have with the third-party property manager to ask, why are we not flipping rooms quicker? Because I'm losing 10, 11 days of revenue generating potential. And it's just a way to hold them accountable. Pending rooms is just, it's kind of straightforward. Listings is great. I'm going to jump into here. On this dashboard, I'm going to go through all of these things. Member feedback, ratings, occupancy, tenure, time to flip, pending, listing, and download. I'm going to jump into this one, listings. This is your comparative market analysis of how you compare against everybody else. So in this specific scenario, I don't have any more rooms to book. So it's a little bit, I got a lot, black that out of as well. My property took 4 days or 4 views to create a booking versus 79, which is on the average metro area. And the rankings, it'll tell you, it falls in exceptional. My average property score is 4.8 relative to the metro average. Here's what I wanted to call out on 4 views versus 79 views. I push as an operator internal referrals significantly. So the people who are actually looking to view my properties, they're going there because I send them a URL link to my property along with my host promo code. So when they go to look at my views and my listing, they're going there to book a room versus if I just let the product do its thing by itself, I might be on average or a little bit higher relative to views. Because my pricing, if I should had a screenshot of my pricing report on the dashboard will tell me on average, I'm about 22 to 23% above the market average. Again, it's just a report indicator against where I am relative to the other rooms in my area. I know that my pricing is a little bit higher because I believe that my value proposition is a little bit higher, but it's an indicator for as you go back to look at your portfolio, what data does PadSplit provide me that I can action off of? If this were in my scenario, it said 400 views to a booking versus 79, that's a canary in the coal mine that tells me there's something wrong with my listing. And the most actionable place that you can take this listing data is to go back to your true listing and say, what am I missing on my listing that it's so attractive that people want to look at it, but something's wrong and they're not booking it. So just use this as a leading indicator for yourself. If you have properties that you put on board, especially within the first 21 days, go back to this and see what your listing, your views to bookings ratio looks like. And it'll give you an idea. Is it something wrong with my listing? Is it something wrong with my price? Is it something wrong with my pictures? There's something going on your listings that is reducing the time for somebody to actually say book and start giving you revenue. Okay. Any questions about this screen on the listings tab of your metrics?
Yes, Gwen, I have a question about it. Will the
Sure.
metrics show up, for example, like my area, Port Charlotte in Southwest Florida? It's fairly new, and I believe there's only a handful of properties that are in that area.
Yeah. So are you saying how is metro area defined?
Yes, I'm saying, will it define like the metro area? Do you think it may pull out to like some other nearby towns or cities?
That's actually a really interesting question. As we start expanding outside of these core areas. So in your case, if I understand, Port Charlotte is south of Sarasota and north of Fort Myers, right? That's where Port Charlotte is.
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay, so I
correct.
do not know if they're pulling data all the way out of Tampa and is using you as a third onion ring and it ties you back to Metro Tampa, or if you're falling further as the third or fourth onion ring north of Miami. I do not know the answer to that question, but I
Okay.
will find a defined answer for how do we define what metro area is. So when you see a number, you're actually comparing against St. Pete and Tampa versus, something within a 50-mile radius or 30-mile radius of where your pin is on the map. So it's a really good question.
Okay. Yeah, because when I look at mine, it shows like I pull it up and it says, your property versus metro area.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'll just have to see where the metro area would be that they're pulling. Okay, thank you so much.
Sure thing. And then, this goes back to the rankings thing. We don't post a house rating yet because we're still kind of nailing down and defining what a house score should look like. But this is directly fed from member feedback. And this is what I mean about like the members who put in, like the more member feedback you get, our system will actually post it at the bottom of your listings as to why members like it. This is a great tool just to see and get an idea of where you are from the member side. Okay. From the downloads, this is new to me as well as an operator. I just want to introduce it to you guys because from an operational standpoint, what I found really useful by this is it kind of pulls down information by room. The bigger your portfolio goes, you're going to start having very consistent returns, very consistent performance by room. And I give an example. In many cases, we will convert a small dining room that's adjacent to the kitchen, meaning that like there's so much action in the shared kitchen and the one room that's adjacent to it, which was formerly a dining room, turns into a bedroom. That room may be small and that room may also drive a ton of churn for a multitude of reasons. A, it's loud. B, it smells like food. And C, whatever the reason is, that room in historical conversations with hosts and members tends to be a high churn. So if you identify that, what can you do to keep people in the room? Two of the things that I've heard really, really good suggestions is they put a solid core door along with some threshold to reduce the smell. They also went in back and when they were converting that room, they put in more soundproof insulation. So it reduces the sound of common space areas. Anything that, if you understand the usability of these rooms, you have the ability to, hold on, somebody else joined. I just want to make sure they have the ability to talk. If you have the ability to do something because you've identified it using the downloads tab here, and you use the data to say, oh, what's wrong with room 2 in house 123 Main Street? Any minor changes that you put in from a CapEx change, it may drive longer tenure and more consistent revenue. So just keep in mind that this is a really good source of data by room. Room change history. This one here tells you a price or status change in the rooms on a given property. If you have a portfolio, this gives you like historical run change on a dashboard per view. Oop. So utilize this as your portfolio starts to grow. Occupancy by month and year. This is historical occupancy broken down for each of your properties. Again, the more granular data that hosts are asking for, you're starting to see tabs put onto this metrics tab which are usable data for you. Again, all the data is always the same. Some hosts utilize it differently than others. I'm just asking you to take a look at this download tab, see what data is available for you, and then start incorporating it into your day, your daily, your monthly, and your quarterly reviews of your properties to make sure you're optimizing for the revenue that you have. I'm going to go back up here. See this property score tab here. If you click it, you'll see it's under construction. Again, our product team is working on how they collect the data to actually put an accurate view of the property and from the view of the member side. So that's coming, and you do not have to worry about this. If you acquired an existing property, I know a lot of hosts had some concerns around, oh, this had a certain scores that were for the previous operator. Again, it's not posted publicly yet, so it's not a concern to you as the operator. I'm going to pause. Any questions here? Fantabulous. All right. When we talk about revenue monthly workshops, right, and this is a worksheet. So this worksheet is available as it's actually a link on that support document that we sent out. I just gave an example of this. This is what I'm currently working on. I'm still editing this, but I gave you as an example template. This was my initial data that I had on what the acquisition costs were. So it's essentially my pro forma of if everything worked out beautifully, what should I expect to see? And then monthly pro forma, I break down every single month, and you'll see this monthly rev op. This is the actual versus the metrics tab, which is the pro forma. And I am trying to figure out on a monthly level, what is the net that's happening? And how do I identify some things that I can control? So this is a worksheet. Download it, make a copy, and edit it as you'd like to add value to your business. I go back to this. What are controllables in your revenue operations? If you think about what are the things that are essentially controllable, utilities are an interesting one. I know that members are the ones that are at the house. Somebody brought out a suggestion, which I thought was really interesting. Can you get a flat rate billing for your utilities, especially in the beginning? If you have the option to do that, and I know there's some differential between a residential account and a commercial account, but in the beginning, one of the most beneficial little hacks is if I can get fixed utility billing for the first several months as I'm ramping up my revenue, I don't have the dynamic, punches in the face from an electric bill that goes from 400 to 600 to 800 as members start coming in, but my occupancy is still fluctuating as my house is starting to balance and stabilize. I want as many predictable things as possible. So if I can work with my utilities and sign up for a budget billing where I know it's a fixed number, it helps me control my cash flow. Has anybody done that in any of their properties or utilized that? Not yet. All right. Well, I'll throw that out to you if you have the opportunity to do that. So the fixed numbers are your PITI, your utilities, your gas fixed, if you can, Wi-Fi, and house cleaning. So these are the ones that we know we're going to have monthly. How do we get those as flat as possible so that we can focus on the revenue side of the members coming inbound and not so much about the variability of utilities? I will tell you from a host perspective, keep an eye out for spiking electric, especially if you are approving members. And this is just a nugget for you to consider. I've had a host freak out because their electric bill went from a standard 600 to 1,200, and they didn't know why. And they went back to go find out from the members that two of them were plugging in their hybrid Teslas, which they were using for Uber, at their house for charging. So when you look at members and you look at what they do for a living, if they say Uber, you might want to ask the question, what do they drive? Because you did not know that that person is going to plug into your house, and you paying the electric bill is actually going to pay for their revenue and their income. So just keep that in mind as some downhill dominoes that other people have learned, so it doesn't impact you negatively. And if you don't ask the right questions on the front side, you might get, hit with something that's that was unexpected from a utility standpoint.
So how did they handle that situation?
They say no, or they change it out so that, they have a conversation with the member that this, you do not plug in at the house. How else would you handle it, Elizabeth? Because again, it always comes back around to like host operations, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there will
Yeah.
be definitely a conversation, verbal plus in writing.
Yeah. So
And
we
they
as the
would have to
platform,
sign off on the written document.
exactly. We as the platform are never going to mandate, no, you cannot plug in your electric vehicle at the house. This is when it comes back around to the four walls of the operation. This goes back to the host. I just want you to be aware of it so that you can avoid some of these things without having issues. So the more aware you are, you can ask certain questions that would kind of surface some of these concerns. Fee structure, booking fee, host promotions, and referrals. The reason I post this out here as from a revenue operations perspective, when you're looking at your portfolio, what are you doing around the booking fee and the fee structure model, which means 8% in the first 10 days of bookings. A lot of people have a hard time understanding what our 10 days of our booking fee looks like. So I just broke it out in simple math. If your room is $210, divide by 7, that's $30 a day, multiply by 10. This is what your booking fee would be. So if you want to know what your booking fee would be, take the average rate for the room that you're booking, divide by 7, multiply by 10. That's essentially the first $300 for every PadSplit delivered booking is captured by the platform. That's revenue. If you want to address that number and attack it from a marketing standpoint, this is when it comes back around to what other options do you have? What kind of host promotions are you doing? What kind of referral program are you running? It's solve it, copy it from another host, implement it into your portfolio. And it's the fastest way we reduce the upfront cost of a PadSplit booking, which means from your standpoint, once you create the listings, copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste for every house that you put on, it's early work with long tail returns. And then for members that are in your house, how quickly do you educate them on the conversation moving inbound upon the benefits of a referral program that you have? A, it helps increase your vetting. And B, it helps decrease the amount that you're going to charge or be charged for your booking fee. So it has, a plus win-win scenario for the members as well as you around getting rooms filled faster. Most of the hosts that we've talked to initially have not implemented a solid referral program. It's almost as simple as putting in a note and just having it laminated and put onto the refrigerator door, reminding members, wouldn't you want to live with somebody that you know as your neighbor? And then just talk about the referral program that you offer. If they don't know about it, then they don't know. The more things that you offer in this scenario, again, it goes back to how sticky are the members to your house. I say stickiness means because I talk about our business model. The longer the tenure of the house, the longer the consistent revenue of the members that are paying, the easier your daily operations are. Okay. Any questions around fee structure, booking fee, host promotions, and referrals? If you do not have a referral program, and if you do not have ever used the host promotion program, just email me. I will share with you examples of other hosts that do it. You can just copy it. You do not have to reinvent the wheel.
Right. That was my question.
You got it, Elizabeth. We're coming. Like all these things that we're doing, the community of the hosts that we have, that's what we're leaning into. And the more we do this, the more hosts, like think about this. I sent out 400 invitations. We got like 40 some odd people that responded back. The more momentum we have for the hosts that participate in this host training and host academy, the more good practices get surfaced and the more that we can share them. So just it's a rolling snowball downhill. We're going to get bigger and bigger and more value is going to be added. But I super appreciate y'all raising your hand and being early adopters in this. Facebook marketplace listings and direct marketing options. It happens on both core markets and non-core markets. So just understand that some of the listings and practices that some of our early adopters in Ohio, not a core market, in Columbus, Georgia, not a core market, in Oklahoma City or Milwaukee, some of those things and actions that they're taking with Facebook market listings and or listings on Zumper or listings on other sites, we can copy and replicate those in our core markets. The platform benefits because more people are aware. The host benefits because you're reducing your cost of putting members in your room. And it's once you figure it out, you just rinse and repeating for every new door that you put on. Everybody wins in that scenario. And again, just go back to you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Let us share with you some of the best practices and see if we can implement them into your business. All right, backing in. Nuanced information. Member move-in experience, what effect does it have on tenure and your long-term revenue? Historical data over the last 5 years. Nothing impacts tenure and retention rate and lowering your operating costs than the member move-in experience. And the reason I cannot stress this enough, if you have not curated your member move-in experience, now's the time to do so. When I say curating, I'm talking about internally to your own systems and processes. When a room is turned, is there a checklist for whoever's turning that room? Meaning, we have problems where a member books a room based on a picture they see, they move in, and the picture does not match anything that's in the room. That's a historic problem. In your systems and the people that you work with, whether it's your cleaner or a third-party property manager, are they ensuring that everything that's listed on the listing, bed, dresser, nightstand, place to put your clothes, a lamp, is it in the room? If the prior member broke it, stole it, misplaced it, I don't know. But if you're not truing up your listing back to what the member's experiencing, that's a problem. Door codes. Many of hosts are moving towards smart door locks. Amazing. I love that. The problem is they go on the app and they change the door code. They do not go on to the PadSplit app and update the door code. When that's a problem is that the move-in instructions are dictated out of our product. Means Bobby's moving into room 3. It's move-in day. He gets an email and a text that says, this is your move-in instructions. And it has the wrong door code. That has got nothing to do with the platform. That has got nothing to do with anybody else except the operator failure to update where that information is being communicated to the member moving in. So something as simple as having a simple checklist for when the room turn is done so that you can ensure that the process is being followed. Secondarily, from an asset management perspective, we historically, our property managers, have focused on the people management. They have not spent a lot of time focusing on the asset management. As your properties start to get long in the tooth, whether they've been on here for 6, 8, 12, 18 months, at what point are you, the owner operator, doing a true up between, let's take a current picture of what the room looks like, let's compare it to the listings to make sure that one of those two things are matching. If that's not part of your normal biannual or annual process, please implement it into your asset management of your portfolio. I cannot tell you how many hosts we have that have been on here for several years. That picture that's on there has never changed. But I guarantee you the member experience inside that room does not look like what that picture looked like 4 years ago. So just be true to how our members literally experience their move-in. It's by the picture that's posted, they book that room, and the disappointment that happens when the member moves in. If you have not been aware of the marketing that you're starting to see from members and the member education that's being put out there by the platform, members have the ability to transfer one free transfer. If they do not like the initial experience, you're going to see members move out. It costs you money every time that happens. I hear hosts complain all the time about, I have members moving out quickly. I have members that aren't lasting. And then when I go to visit the house and I go to visit the room, I send them pictures of what that experience looks like. And now they're not surprised as to why members are moving out quicker. And then they turn their attention back to the property manager, say, how did you let this happen? You as the owner of the asset, I just challenge you to hold them accountable for delivering the member experience that you expect them to deliver. All right, here are the things that extend member tenure, and here are the learnings. High quality product images with localized and unique listing descriptions. There's nothing novel here. Approving members in a timely manner and maintaining communications. If a member sends you a note during the move-in window when the communication is open, it's a 48-hour window when the mover gets approved, when the member gets approved for the booking. The number that the system has for you is the number that's going to be provided to the member upon move-in. If you do not pick up the phone, they're going to fall back into customer service. Customer service has no ability to change the locks, to meet them at the house, to show them which door. We don't have the ability to do that because we're a digital platform. So please make sure from your side of the fence that your data is in there correctly, and then you have gone through that member experience to understand, oh, my fault. That's the number I put in when I set up the listing 2 months ago. I forgot to update it. You have to understand how these things impact the member experience. So just go through the member experience and understand it and make sure that all your ducks are in a row. I need to talk about this. The default member income ratio is 2-to-1. We have hosts that once we had this conversation about income to rent ratio, so we go back again to that slide that I had before. If a member is approved for $480 a week and he chooses to book a room for $145, that's pretty much in line. 50 to 70% of their approved number is what they're going to book for. Here's the thing. The host that said, oh, I'm going to use the income ratio as a metric or a vetting tool. If 2-to-1 is good, I bet you members that have 3-to-1 income ratios are going to be better members. One of the reasons you're on PadSplit is that we are the nation's largest operator and digital platform for rent by the room. Our data over 5 years and over 17,000 doors, there is a nominal difference between member performance from our default setting of 2 times member income to 2.5, 3, 3.5. The further you get away from the default, you actually start seeing diminishing returns. The members that can afford $300, $400 rooms, their ability to move out and do something else increases. So being aware of what our marketplace is and the business that we're in, if that member stays for 3 months and they approve for $900, they're going to move out and do something else. So just be understanding about when it says it's 2-to-1 income ratio, that historical performance is just as good as anybody else that does 3-to-1 income ratio. And it starts getting worse the higher the income ratio gets. Is there any questions around that? Because it's kind of counterintuitive. I hope the silence isn't disappointment, but I just want to be very, very, straightforward and transparent about that one. I cannot stress door codes being set up correctly in the dashboard and providing clear move-in instructions. I used this example before. In your host support documents, you have very clear examples and templates for good move-ins, whether it's a video version or whether it's a downloadable PDF. Please take a look at those compared to your move-in instructions. In the real world, when we convert these houses, the living room typically becomes a bedroom. Well, that's typically where the front door goes in. If you're not very clear about which door of that side door of the house is going to become the main door into the kitchen, it's going to cause problems on the move-in. It's going to cause frustrations for the member. It's going to reduce your tenure, and it's going to reduce your profitability. Open maintenance tasks and tickets. Number one thing that I will throw out to here. A, it's wonderful that our platform allows for members to put in maintenance tickets. It allows you as the host to manage and operate your asset significantly faster. If there's a leak, you're going to hear about it tomorrow. If the dishwasher doesn't work, you're going to hear about it tomorrow versus a slow drip in the kitchen or a slow drip in the laundry room that will literally warp your entire floors because nobody's been there for 30 to 40 to 60 days. The other ask to that is our platform allows you to respond using the house messenger immediately. The members, they're not unreasonable. When they get unreasonable is when you ignore them and ghost them and they feel like they're being ignored. Everybody understands. Like I have an issue where I have right now, currently, my downstairs tub is slow to drain. Two things. One, a lot of hair is getting down there and it's clogging it. And B, that's my fault because I didn't put a little silicone shield or screen on top to catch that. Lesson learned, I'm sending a plumber out there, but the plumber can't get out there until his schedule allows. But on the messenger, I responded back and said, thank you for the submission. Plumber's been contacted. I'll let you know as soon as I can when he's scheduled to come to the door and come to the house because I want you to be aware there's going to be a service technician at the house. Just respond to the tickets and the tasks. If there's tasks on there that you do not understand how to navigate and manage, raise your hand, call host support. They'll walk you through the mechanics of that because it's not super intuitive that you can slide over the task from open task over to in progress so that it changes and moves along the status because that same status is then communicated to the members as well. Any questions about the maintenance task board? All right, we'll keep it moving. Ensuring clean property and parking availability. I throw this out because this becomes dynamic as the longer that you operate the house. A good thing is happening. Members are saving money. One of the first things that members typically are looking to do is increase their transportation options. So they save $400 to $600 a month. One of the first things that people want to do is I want to get a cheap car. I want to get into a car. What they don't do is actually update the dashboard. So they don't go back into the member profile and ask the question, hey, do you have a car? I do now, but they've never gone back to the member profile to update it. You should be, at a minimum, inspecting your properties at least once a month. Simple question is you can make it very clear to members when they move in or using the house message at any time. Hey, if you get a car, congratulations. Please let me know so I can update it or you can go into your member profile and update it. Reason being, if you have open rooms that come available, all the member sees is the data that's provided. And the data that's provided is updated and managed by you. So if there's no parking spots and it says 3-car parking spots available and the member moves in, what a stupid reason to lose revenue. Because that member's like, oh, there's no place for me to park. I'll just go find a different house that has parking. Again, that's got nothing to do with the platform. That's you as the operator. So just be aware of what's impacted and what information gets communicated. So here's the product dashboards working on this. So put this under construction. Working on a full video library of how to access all of this data. There are listings on the support doc that I sent you of YouTube videos that are out there. I just want to make newer ones that are more reflective of today's product versus when they were originally created. So you have a baseline that's in there under the YouTube video links that are there. I'm working on Loom videos to update these, but these are the things that I think are the most impactful. If there's anything else that you would like to see a video tutorial on, just email me, let me know, and help me get better. Anything in here right now that jumps off the page of you would like to see? Elizabeth, Christian, I don't know who's a 612 number. Who is the 612 number? Anybody?
You know, Quentin, it looks good. I mean, as far as the additional videos, yeah, these look great. I didn't realize that. Yep.
Okay, doke.
Yeah.
So
Look
I'll
pretty.
go ahead and work on these, and then if you see anything else you want to see additionally, just let us know.
So the checklist is available.
Which checklist?
The checklist that we were referring to make certain that
On the move out?
for move in, move out.
I can get you examples of the ones that my guys use. Yeah, I'll add that to that list.
Okay. Thank you.
And then you can edit it as you like because your properties are going to be a little bit different. I know that some of the property managers have finally started doing this for their cleaning crews, where it's a full checklist. So when they do a room turn, boom, 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 they confirm that it's done. They take a picture to confirm that they actually did the things that they're doing, and then they can hold people accountable for the payments that they're giving them. Versus when a member moves in and says the room is dirty, now the host is like, no, it's not, and then they're arguing back and forth with the member. Silly. Get your asset right. All right, so we're coming to the tail end, which is kind of good because this is where the timing works. Here's the takeaways that I'm hoping that you guys take away from this. Do you have a system in place for your bookings management? What data points do you immediately go to say yes or no to a booking? And then if you don't get that data, what is the follow-up that you do in order to ask from the member or attain that information from the member when the booking window in the chat is open? Hey, where do you work? How long have you worked there? Why do you want to live here? Those are the three main questions that I utilize on my member screening. The member-to-member management piece of it, how do you currently triage and handle any member-to-member issues? I throw this out there because it's always the problem that we run into. If we ignore, and if hosts ignore member-to-member surfaced issues, they end up growing and growing until somebody blows up. And here's what happens. The good member that you think is really good versus the other member that you think is not so good. Of the two, you know who's going to move out? The good member.
Good one.
It always comes down to that, right? If we don't have a system in place where the members can communicate either through you or to each other, and I utilize a house meeting for this. Again, it doesn't have to be, my playbook doesn't have to be yours. I'm just telling you that these options exist. We utilize the house messenger a lot. Like I was just talking to Kirsten. She's like, my God, you have a lot of messages on here because it's constant communication, which means that I've empowered the members in the house to leverage the tools that they have to communicate with me. The more reactive I am and the more responsive I am, it just feeds into the narrative that I'm a responsive host, and they appreciate that and they want to stay. Again, for me, my business model is all about tenure. And how do I extend tenure with consistent people? Because the longer they have it, they stay in the same house, the more relationships they build with each other and the less member-to-member friction I have. But because they're the same members in the house, we had to give them some sort of tool or some sort of vehicle to de-escalate member-to-member issues. We happen to utilize a monthly house meeting in order to do that. I will throw out the benefits of this is that I have members in the house that want to do things together. They cook family meals together. They asked, my challenge to them was, if everybody's on time and nobody's behind, I am down with doing house-related activities. Meaning the members said they're interested in putting in a produce garden in the back. I support that. I think that's a wonderful idea. I will use that content for marketing. I'll use that content for delivering the narrative that communities can exist in the house. And if somebody were to move out, this is the experience that you're moving into. I will use all of that, but not if somebody's behind, not if you're not paying your rent. Those are the kind of trade-offs is, what we as a community survive and improve, but you have to hold up your end is pay your rent. The other thing that I'll throw out there is it doesn't have to just be one form of management. It doesn't have to be my suggested form of management. Anybody can do it their own way on our platform, which makes it amazing. The only thing that I suggest is have some system in place which allows for member-to-member management of issues and de-escalation. If you're just putting your head in the sand and hoping that it de-escalates by itself, it's not going to, and it's going to blow up. This is how 7 and 8 member houses turned into 3 or 4 member houses, because the guy who's the lady that causes chaos is the one that's going to be left because the other members didn't feel like they had any empowerment to address the issue. That's why I talk about member-to-member management so much. Revenue management and reporting. This is really important for you to elevate yourself out of the day-to-day operations and say, let me take a look at my business. What does the revenue look like? Where am I leaking oil? and like slowly leaking. And how do I address that? Utilities. Many of the houses that I see that are converting are 1960s and older. The insulation in these things are terrible. The windows are terrible. And when you're at the first stage of putting a house on and you're worried about the operating cost and the conversion cost, there are some long-term things that people are not being aware of. HVAC, how efficient is it? Hot water heater, how efficient is it? Insulation, how efficient is it? Would you rather amortize new windows during that renovation period to reduce your overall heat and air conditioning? The hosts that are in Texas, the hosts that are in Florida, the hosts that are in Phoenix, the hosts that are in Georgia, if you're not looking at it from that lens, you're literally allowing yourself to slowly leak out money and revenue because your house is so poorly insulated, which is just something that you don't think of until you're the operator of a house that you've had on the platform for multiple years. So just keep that in mind when we get into the next week's topic, which is host expansion. When we talk about identifying properties and converting properties, we want you to get into building a portfolio of an optimized house. No longer the days of like, I'm going to be an accidental landlord and how do I, put in additional rooms. We're now going to be focusing our attention toward intentionally growing this portfolio. What are the lessons that I can implement so that I'm optimizing for revenue during the construction phase, during the property selection phase? So just keep that in mind. Asset and risk management, I would please ask y'all to take a look at your insurance. Okay? Go back and just take a quick look and say, did I just check off the box because I needed insurance? Go back and just take a good look at your assets and is your risk management correct? Financial reporting and financials. Do you take quarterly reviews of actually your financials for the house? Have you done an analysis against what your pro forma was? Instead of saying, oh, I took home this much money, net, you need to understand if that number is achieving the goals that you wanted. So just kind of elevating up and seeing and being able to digest the data that we have from PadSplit on the platform. Are my financials returning what my expectations are? And if not, what indicators do I have where I can address some of those situations in the financials of utilities or expenses or revenue? So be aware that these are the things that, from a month to month, quarter over quarter, how am I analyzing my business 50,000 feet up, all the way down to the boots on the ground daily management. Any questions? We have about 10 or 15 more minutes. I'm open for anything that you guys have or ladies have in terms of the questions that we have about this section. Please talk. Anybody?
No, I feel like you covered it all. I think it was really informative, and thanks for sharing the Word document.
Sure.
I'm looking forward to the next session where, talking about expanding and growing, your assets, growing the portfolio.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a fun one because a lot of it is theoretical, but a lot of it is like ground rules. I have historically done training with realtors and wholesalers because one of our biggest problems is our deal flow coming inbound was bad because the people who were looking for properties for us, they didn't understand our business enough. So they were sending properties that were 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 1,000 square feet. They're like, oh no, it's a great deal. Not for our end product, right? So the better educated you are as an investor, the more conversations that you can have upstream with your realtor or your wholesalers so that you're not forced to say yes to a deal that they like. They're now having to change the way they do their business and their access to MLS and their access to all these other listing functions where they're bringing you deals off market because you want equity or on market and they're aggressively going after houses that fit the bill. Nobody loves bathrooms more than we do. When we see listings that say 4-bedroom, 3-bath, and you look at it and it's a 2.5, and the hallway bathroom is under the stairway and you can't do anything with it, that's less appealing than a house that has 3 full bathrooms One of them happens to be in a basement that's unfinished. That is like the holy grail for us because we can monetize that space unlike anybody else that's looking at that house as a buyer. Because we'll make revenue generation out of that basement because there's a full bathroom down there that's already stubbed. So the way that we will train you guys and talk about the acquisition, it's a little bit different. It's I hate to say it, it's unfortunately the way I think because I reverse engineer everything. If you want to get ahead of it, I'll give you a quick snippet. Is one of the biggest problems we're currently having with investors is their appraisals are not coming in as aggressive as we'd like. And their DSCR or debt service coverage ratio isn't coming back 1-to-1 ratios because they're not focusing on identifying properties in the right areas. So a quick hack, Christian, if you're interested, and anybody else, if you go to Zillow and you look at the for rent page instead of the for buy, you'll start seeing ranges of rents that are available between 1,800 and 2,400. That's the range I use. And you start looking at what areas of the city that you want to buy in that already have average market rates between 1,800 and 2,400. And that tells you, oh my gosh, my loan with my long-term debt service coverage ratio lender will reach the 1-to-1 ratio or a little bit less or a little bit more than the 1-to-1 ratio because I know that I'm buying a house that the mortgage is going to be 2,100, but the average market rate in this area is 2,400, which means that it's going to unlock the full 75% of the appraisal. That's one of the simplest ways that I eliminate all the time of that could be a great deal for somebody else, but not the way we do it. So just a way of where do I look for properties? Start with the rentals market and start looking at areas which it fits your bill. So rental rates and appraisals are the two most important things that our long-term lenders, you need to understand how they're going to assess the value and how much they're going to give you on a mortgage. Then you can back into that number. So it's a lot of fun in that conversation around improving the way that you look for acquisition.
Makes sense. Thanks for sharing.
Sure thing.
All right.
So day-to-day operations, is there anything else in here that you would like me to follow up on or additional tools that you would like to see? I know that we have a question around metro area, and I know we have another question around transparency of background check. Is there anything else? Oh, and then the employment.
Well, any documents that are available that you're using or others, I'm certainly will be appreciative for that to streamline and have a system in place.
You got it. Okie doke. Any wins this weekend or this week? Anything good? How was your listing changes? Did anybody go back and do some analysis or, eyes wide open view of your current listings? Did you find anything that was that we spoke about that? Oh my.
Well, I did change one room's price.
Okay.
Lowered it just a bit. And I was in the process, and I'm glad that you went over that, in the process of doing a promo. But I wasn't sure what those weeks meant. And you did explain that, and then there was another option, I think, that was underneath there. And I wasn't quite sure which one was the most popular one, or maybe the one that's most feasible, not necessarily popular to use, because there are two sets of options. It was one where you put the one that you shared with us, the dollar amount and the number of weeks, and then I think the other one was a percentage.
Yeah, you could put a promo on any room. I think it runs for 6 or 8 weeks, or you can move that scale for yourself. Because it'll change the listing view. Oh, that's a really good point, Elizabeth. If you have a price point, let's say it's $201, and then you change the price point for whatever, you put a 10% promotion on it. I just want to reiterate, if a member is only approved to a certain amount at $200, they will never see a room booked at $201. So some of like, it's kind of like the 190, it's kind of like how people price houses on Zillow so that it gets the most visibility. You may want to take a look at prices that instead of it being 202, 198, 176 versus 174. I'd love a good dynamic pricing, even in the previous worlds. Instead of it being round numbers, I would always do it in nickel portions. So taking a look at a price that is 177 versus 180, that differential for who it populates and who that house is shown to, that may add value for you. Different strategies to try, and that's the fun part about this being your business. All right.
Thank you.
I will see y'all next week. If you have any hosts that you know of that haven't participated in this, please let them know. Please tell them that there's value here for them to share and participate in. I would just love our goal for every host to go through it, and it would just literally raise the floor from everybody bottom up. All right, folks. I will see y'all next week.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.